r/pettyrevenge MIL demanded money, so I catfished her into public humiliation. Chunk 1. Sarah, honey, I need you to write me a check for $5,000. My mother-in-law's voice cut through the birthday party chatter like a knife through cake. Every conversation at my sister-in-law's backyard barbecue stopped. 23 pairs of eyes swiveled toward me, standing there with a paper plate of potato salad halfway to my mouth. I'm sorry, what? I managed, hoping I'd misheard her over the kids screaming in the bouncy castle. Linda stepped closer, her perfectly manicured hand adjusting the designer sunglasses perched on her bleached blonde head. 5,000. For my girl's trip to Cabo next month. It's the least you can do for this family, considering how much my son provides for you. The potato salad suddenly tasted like sawdust. Around us, the family pretended to resume their conversations, but I could feel them straining to listen. This was better than cable TV for them. Another episode of Linda put Sarah in her place. Linda, I think there's been some confusion, I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. We're not. Oh, please. She waved her hand dismissively, her tennis bracelet catching the sunlight. Don't give me that poor mouth routine. I know exactly how much you two make. My son tells me everything. She didn't lower her voice. If anything, she got louder. Besides, after everything I've done for you? Teaching you how to dress properly, introducing you to the right people, helping you fit into this family despite your background? Her eyes raked over my Target sundress with barely concealed disgust. $5,000 is nothing compared to what I've invested in making you presentable. My husband Jake was across the yard, deep in conversation with his uncle about football. He hadn't heard any of this. Again. That's very generous of you to offer advice, I said carefully, but we can't afford. Can't afford? Linda's laugh was sharp enough to shatter glass. Honey, you married into money. Stop acting like you're still that little scholarship girl from the wrong side of town. Heat flooded my cheeks. Behind Linda, I caught sight of Jake's cousin Emma holding up her phone, probably live-streaming this whole humiliation to her Instagram followers. Perfect. Maybe we should discuss this privately, I suggested, though what I really wanted was to dump my remaining potato salad on her perfectly styled head. Why? It's just family here. Linda's smile was all teeth and no warmth. And family helps family. That's what real wives do for their mother-in-laws. They show gratitude. The word real hit like a slap. This woman had been undermining me for 3 years, ever since Jake put a ring on my finger. Behind my back, she called me a gold digger to anyone who'd listen. To my face, she was all fake smiles and backhanded compliments about how lucky I was to have caught her son. But demanding money at a family party? In front of everyone? This was a new low, even for Linda. I need to think about it, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Don't think too long, dear. The deposit's due Monday. She patted my arm with mock sympathy. I'm sure you'll figure out how to make it work. You're so resourceful. As she glided away to terrorize someone else, I stood there clutching my paper plate, cheeks burning with shame and fury. That's when I started planning her downfall. The ride home was torture. Jake hummed along to the radio like nothing had happened, occasionally commenting on his uncle's new boat or his cousin's promotion. Meanwhile, I sat in the passenger seat, my fingernails digging crescents into my palms as I replayed every humiliating second. Your mom cornered me today, I said when we pulled into our driveway. Oh yeah? About what? Jake grabbed the leftover cake his sister had forced on us from the back seat, already distracted. She wants us to give her $5,000 for a vacation. She demanded it in front of everyone. Jake paused, his hand on the car door handle. She probably didn't mean it like that, babe. You know how mom is, she just gets excited about family stuff. Excited? The word came out sharper than I intended. Jake, she humiliated me. Your cousin was literally filming it. Emma films everything. And mom's just direct. It's not personal. Not personal. I watched my husband of 3 years unlock our front door, completely oblivious to the fact that his mother had just publicly branded me as her personal ATM. This was exactly why Linda got away with everything. Jake never saw it, or worse, he saw it and didn't care. We're not giving her the money, I said as we walked inside. Look, I know $5,000 is a lot, but... Jake set the cake on our kitchen counter and finally looked at me. She did help us with a down payment on this place. My blood pressure spiked. She loaned us $3,000 that we paid back in 6 months. With interest. Still. Family's family, Sarah. Then why doesn't she ask your sister? Or your brother? Why is it always us? Jake's jaw tightened, a sure sign I was pushing too hard. Because we don't have kids bleeding us dry, and we both have good jobs. Look, I'll talk to her about the way she asked, okay? But maybe we could help her out a little. I stared at him. 3 years of marriage, and he still didn't get it. His mother didn't see me as family, she saw me as an obstacle to overcome and a wallet to raid. And Jake was so desperate to keep the peace that he'd sacrifice me on the altar of family harmony every single time. That night, after Jake fell asleep, I lay awake scrolling through social media. Emma had indeed posted the video. 37 likes and counting, with comments ranging from crying laughing emojis to Linda is savage to poor Sarah LOL. My stomach churned as I read each one. These people, Jake's family, were entertained by my humiliation. I was the family joke, the outsider who didn't know her place. By 2 a.m., a plan was forming. Linda was always bragging about the men who hit on her at her yoga class, her book club, the grocery store. I still got it, she'd purr, flipping her hair like she was 25 instead of 55. She was particularly proud of her dating app adventures after her divorce 5 years ago, constantly showing off messages from her admirers. What if one of those admirers turned out to be too good to be true? I grabbed my laptop and started researching. Fake dating profiles, reverse image searches, how to create untraceable email accounts. If Linda wanted to play games with my dignity, I'd show her what happened when someone played back. By sunrise, I had everything I needed to give my mother-in-law a taste of her own medicine. The best part? She was going to do all the work herself. Chunk 3. Creating the fake profile took 3 days of meticulous planning. I used photos from Linda's own social media, carefully cropped to remove identifying background details, then run through photo editing apps to slightly alter the lighting and angles. Reverse image searches came back clean. Perfect. I named her Linda M and crafted a profile that would be irresistible to her type of man. Recently divorced, financially stable, looking for a sophisticated woman who appreciated the finer things in life. I scattered just enough details to make it believable: a love of wine tastings, frequent travel, a preference for upscale dining. The hardest part was creating David. He needed to be everything Linda thought she deserved. 58, silver-haired, owned a consulting business that allowed him to work remotely. Divorced, no kids, loved to spoil the right woman. His photos came from a stock photography site, a distinguished-looking man in expensive suits and casual weekend wear. I spent hours perfecting David's voice through our message exchanges. Charming but not pushy, generous but not desperate, cultured enough to impress someone like Linda who thought reading wine labels made her sophisticated. The app matched them on Wednesday. By Friday, they were texting constantly. I watched Linda's behavior change in real time. She started showing up to family events with fresh manicures and new outfits. At Jake's cousin's engagement party that weekend, she couldn't stop checking her phone and smiling at the screen like a teenager. Mom seems happy lately, Jake commented as we watched Linda giggle at something on her phone instead of criticizing the catering choices. Maybe she found a new hobby, I replied, hiding my smile behind my wine glass. Linda couldn't resist bragging. Within days, she was telling anyone who'd listen about her amazing connection with this wonderful man she'd met online. She showed his photos to the church ladies, read his messages aloud to her sister, and posted vague social media updates about exciting new chapters. The family ate it up. Finally, something other than my shortcomings to discuss at gatherings. But David wasn't just there for entertainment. He was genuinely interested in Linda's financial situation, in the way any caring partner would be, of course. When she mentioned her upcoming Cabo trip, he was so supportive. When she casually complained about her son and daughter-in-law not appreciating everything she'd done for them, David was appropriately outraged on her behalf. A woman like you deserves to be treasured, he texted. Any family would be lucky to have you. Linda practically glowed reading messages like that. She started forwarding screenshots to her sister, who apparently agreed that David sounded like a real catch. The tricky part was timing. I needed Linda to be completely invested before making my move, but I also couldn't let this drag on too long. Jake was already asking questions about my improved mood, and I was spending way too much mental energy keeping David's personality consistent. Meanwhile, the money situation was escalating. Linda had casually mentioned the Cabo trip to Jake 3 more times, each conversation ending with him looking more stressed. I could see him wearing down, calculating numbers in his head, probably figuring out how to rate our vacation fund to keep mommy happy. She's really excited about this trip, he said Thursday night over dinner. Maybe we could help with part of it? Like 2,000 instead of 5? Jake, no. It's just that she's been so happy lately with this new guy she's seeing. I'd hate for money stress to ruin that for her. Perfect. Even better than I'd hoped, Jake was invested in Linda's happiness now. Her fall from grace would sting twice as much. That night, David made his move. He suggested meeting for dinner at Romano's, the upscale Italian place where Linda had hosted Jake's rehearsal dinner, where half the family celebrated every major milestone, where she was guaranteed to run into people she knew. She said yes immediately. Chunk 4. The confirmation text from Linda came through at 11:47 p.m. on Friday. Can't wait to meet you tomorrow. I'll be wearing the red dress we talked about. This feels like destiny. Red heart. I stared at the message, my stomach doing flips. Tomorrow was Saturday. In 18 hours, Linda would be sitting alone at Romano's, waiting for a man who didn't exist, probably posting excited selfies that would turn into evidence of her humiliation. It should have felt like victory. Instead, I felt like I might throw up. You okay? Jake's voice made me jump. I quickly switched my phone screen off, but not before he caught a glimpse. Who's texting you this late? Just my sister, I lied, sliding the phone face down on the nightstand. Something about Mom's birthday next week. Jake studied my face in the dim light from his bedside lamp. You've been weird lately. Distracted. I'm fine. Is this about the money thing? Because I talked to Mom today, and she said she might have another option for Cabo. Some guy she's been seeing offered to help. My blood turned to ice water. What guy? David something. She's been gushing about him for weeks. Apparently he's loaded and really into her. Jake settled back against his pillows, completely missing my panic. Honestly, I'm relieved. Maybe now she won't need us to contribute as much. I forced my breathing to stay steady. That's great. But it wasn't great. It was a disaster. If Linda thought David was going to pay for her trip, she'd be even more devastated when he stood her up. Worse, she'd probably told people about his generous offer. The humiliation would be 10 times worse than I'd planned. What had I done? Sarah? Jake was looking at me again. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm just tired. I rolled over, pulling the covers up to my chin. Long day. But sleep was impossible. I lay there for hours, my mind racing through scenarios. Linda arriving at Romano's in her red dress, confident and glowing. Checking her phone every few minutes. Ordering a drink, then another. The staff starting to look at her with pity as the dinner crowd filled the restaurant around her empty table. How many people would she have told about this date? How many would be watching her social media, waiting for updates about her perfect evening with Mr. Wonderful? At 3 a.m., I crept out of bed and locked myself in the bathroom with my phone. I could cancel this. Send a message from David saying he was sick or had a family emergency. Reschedule for another day and then let the relationship fizzle out naturally. But then I remembered Emma's video. 37 likes. Poor Sarah, lol. Linda's satisfied smirk as she patted my arm and called me resourceful. I put the phone away without typing anything. The next morning, Jake was unusually chatty over coffee, probably overcompensating for my weird mood the night before. He rambled about weekend plans, mentioned we should try Romano soon since we hadn't been there in months, wondered aloud if his mom's new relationship might lead somewhere serious. She really seems to like this David guy, he said, buttering his toast. I haven't seen her this happy since Dad left. The toast in my mouth turned to cardboard. Linda's divorce had been brutal, public and expensive, with her ex-husband airing every piece of dirty laundry he could find. The family had rallied around her then, protective and supportive. If this David thing went badly. Maybe I should drive by Romano's tonight, Jake continued casually. You know, just to check on her. Make sure this guy is legitimate. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers and shattered against the kitchen floor. Shit. I dropped to my knees, frantically gathering pieces of ceramic, my heart hammering. Sorry, I'm so clumsy lately. Jake knelt beside me, catching my wrist before I could grab a sharp shard. Hey, careful. What's going on with you? I looked into his concerned brown eyes, the same eyes that had promised to love and protect me 3 years ago, and realized I was about to destroy everything. If Jake showed up at Romano's tonight, he'd see his mother sitting alone. He'd put the pieces together eventually. And when he did, my marriage would be over. But it was too late to stop it now. Chunk 5. Actually, you know what? Bad idea, Jake said, sweeping ceramic shards into his palm. Mom would kill me if she knew I was checking up on her like some overprotective kid. She's a grown woman. Relief flooded through me so fast I nearly collapsed. Right. She'd hate that. Plus, she's been texting me updates all week anyway. If something went wrong, she'd call. He dumped the broken mug pieces in the trash and kissed my forehead. I'm going to hit the gym, then maybe catch up with Marcus. You sure you're okay? Perfect, I lied. Have fun. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed my laptop and started damage control research. How to delete dating profiles. How to cancel fake accounts. How to make David disappear without a trace. But Linda was already at the salon. I could see her Instagram stories. Hair, nails, the works. She was posting everything, getting ready for an amazing night, followed by a boomerang of champagne glasses and heart emojis. My phone buzzed with a text from David, from me, that I'd scheduled yesterday. Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. You're going to love the surprise I have planned. I'd written that message thinking I was being clever, adding an extra layer of anticipation that would make the disappointment sharper. Now it felt like I'd loaded a gun and pointed it at my own head. Linda's response was immediate. I'm literally shaking with excitement. Should I bring anything special? Face blowing a kiss. My hands were trembling as I typed David's response. Just bring that beautiful smile. God, I was making this so much worse. By 4 o'clock, Linda was posting photos of herself getting dressed. The red dress was stunning, designer, probably cost more than my monthly car payment. She looked genuinely radiant, younger somehow, like this David fantasy had given her something to believe in again. The comments were pouring in from her friends. You look gorgeous. He's so lucky. Can't wait to hear all about tonight. When's the wedding? Face with tears of joy, red heart. My sister-in-law Amy even commented, Mom, you're glowing. So happy for you. The family was invested now. This wasn't just Linda getting stood up, this was Linda having her fairy tale ripped away in front of everyone she'd bragged to. I tried to focus on why I was doing this. The money demands. The constant humiliation. 3 years of being treated like I wasn't good enough to breathe the same air as her precious son. The video Emma posted, the laughing comments, the casual cruelty of making my shame into entertainment. Linda deserved this. She'd built her happiness on other people's misery for years. But at 6 p.m., she posted a selfie in her car with the caption, on my way to meet my prince. Sometimes good things really do happen to good people. Love you all for supporting me through this journey. 2 hearts. The comments were even worse this time. Her book club ladies, her yoga friends, distant relatives, everyone was so genuinely excited for her. Her sister had commented, you deserve this happiness, Lynn. Dad would be so proud. I'd forgotten that Linda's father had died last year. That she'd been struggling with loneliness since the divorce. That underneath all her awful behavior was probably a woman who just wanted someone to choose her. None of that excused what she'd done to me. But it made what I was about to do feel monstrous. At 6:30, Jake texted, running late at the gym. Marcus wants to grab dinner after. You good with leftover pizza? I stared at the message. He was going to be out all evening. Which meant no awkward questions about why I was glued to my phone, refreshing Linda's social media every 30 seconds like a psychopath. It also meant I was going to watch this train wreck alone. Romano's opened for dinner service at 7. Linda's reservation was for 7:30. I had 1 hour to decide if I was really going through with this. At 7:15, I was parked 3 blocks away from Romano's, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles had gone white. This was insane. I was sitting in my car like some kind of stalker, preparing to watch my mother-in-law's public humiliation in real time. But I couldn't stay away. I had to see what I'd done. Linda's last post was from the restaurant parking lot, a mirror selfie showing her checking her lipstick with a caption. He texted that he's running 10 minutes late. Good thing I'm early. Smiling face with hard eyes. My stomach lurched. I hadn't sent any message about being late. Which meant Linda was making excuses for David before he'd even failed to show up. She was so invested in this fantasy that she was already covering for him. I forced myself to walk the 3 blocks to Romano's, my heart hammering with every step. The Saturday evening crowd was thick, couples and families heading to dinner, everyone dressed up and happy. Normal people living normal lives, not orchestrating elaborate revenge schemes against their in-laws. Through the restaurant's front windows, I could see Linda at a corner table, visible from the street. She'd chosen the spot perfectly, prime real estate where anyone walking by could see her with her handsome date. The table was set for 2, candles lit, a bottle of wine already ordered. She looked stunning. And so hopeful it made my chest ache. I ducked into the coffee shop across the street and ordered something I didn't want, positioning myself at a window table where I could watch the disaster unfold. The barista was chatty, commenting on how busy Romano's looked, asking if I'd ever eaten there. Special occasion tonight? She asked, following my gaze across the street. Something like that. At 7:45, Linda was still smiling, still checking her phone casually, still radiating confidence. She'd ordered an appetizer, probably to look busy, and was sipping wine while scrolling through her messages. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda to David, no worries about being late. I'm enjoying the wine and people watching. Take your time. Red heart. She was being understanding. Patient. Kind, even. This wasn't the demanding, entitled woman who'd humiliated me at the family barbecue. This was someone trying her best to be the perfect date for a man she really liked. At 8 o'clock, her posture changed slightly. Still upright, still smiling, but there was a tension in her shoulders that hadn't been there before. She checked her phone more frequently, sent another text, "Hey handsome, just wanted to make sure you found the place okay?" The restaurant was hitting peak dinner rush now. Every table around Linda was full of couples and groups, laughing and talking and having the kind of evening she thought she was going to have. The servers were starting to hover more, probably wondering about the woman dining alone who kept insisting her date was coming. At 8:15, I watched Linda's face crumble for just a moment before she rebuilt the smile. She knew. Some part of her knew David wasn't coming, but she wasn't ready to admit it yet. She ordered an entree. This was wrong. This was so fundamentally wrong that I felt sick watching it. Linda was awful to me, yes, but this wasn't justice. This was cruelty. I pulled out my phone to send a message from David, some excuse, some reason to call this off, when I saw a familiar figure walking toward Romano's entrance. Emma. Jake's cousin, the one who'd filmed my humiliation at the barbecue. She had her phone out, already recording, a wicked grin on her face as she spotted Linda through the window. She'd come to watch the show. And if Emma was here, how many others from the family had Linda told about tonight? How many people were going to witness this? My revenge was about to become a family spectacle, and I was trapped in this coffee shop, watching it happen like a horror movie I couldn't turn off. Chunk 7. Emma wasn't alone. Through the coffee shop window, I watched in growing horror as Jake's brother Mike appeared behind her, followed by his girlfriend Jessica. They clustered on the sidewalk outside Romano's, phones out, taking turns pointing through the window at Linda like she was some kind of zoo exhibit. My phone buzzed with notifications. Emma was live streaming again, and people were commenting in real time. "Whoa, is that Linda getting stood up?" Skull. "This is so awkward I can't look away. Someone should tell her." "No, this is hilarious." I wanted to scream. This had spiraled so far beyond what I'd planned. I'd imagined Linda sitting alone for a while, maybe getting quietly embarrassed, learning a small lesson about humility. I hadn't factored in the family vultures circling to feast on her misery. At 8:25, Linda finally signaled for the check. Her face was a mask of careful composure, but I could see her hands shaking as she counted out cash. She left way too much, probably desperate to escape without seeming like she was running away. The worst part was watching her gather her purse and jacket with such deliberate dignity. She wasn't going to let anyone see her break, even though her entire family was literally gathered outside watching her humiliation unfold. My phone rang. Jake. "Hey babe, change of plans. Marcus bailed, so I'm heading home early. You want me to grab Thai food on the way?" I couldn't speak. Across the street, Linda was standing up from her table while Emma zoomed in on her face through the window. "Sarah? You there?" My voice came out as a croak. "I'm not home right now." "Oh, where are you?" "I can pick you up." Linda was walking toward the restaurant exit. In 30 seconds, she was going to come face to face with her nephew and niece filming her shame for social media entertainment. "I have to go," I whispered and hung up. I couldn't watch this anymore. But I also couldn't leave. Some sick fascination kept me glued to the window as Linda pushed through Romano's front door and nearly collided with Mike. Even from across the street, I could see the exact moment she realized what was happening. Her step faltered. Her eyes went from Mike to Emma to Jessica, taking in their phones, their barely concealed grins, the small crowd of evening pedestrians who'd stopped to see what was being filmed. Emma said something, probably some fake innocent "Oh my god, Aunt Linda, what are you doing here?" And Linda's response was too dignified for the moment. She smiled, said something brief, and kept walking toward her car. But Emma followed her. The whole group followed her, phone still recording, Emma's live stream chat exploding with laughing emojis and fire symbols. They were treating this like entertainment, like Linda's pain was content for their feeds. I'd created this. I'd set Linda up, but I'd also set up Emma and Mike and Jessica to become monsters. They could have shown mercy, could have quietly left when they saw what was happening. Instead, they chose cruelty. And the worst part? I was no different. I'd orchestrated the whole thing. My phone was buzzing constantly now. Text from Jake, "Everything okay? Where are you? Call me back." And texts from David's phone, my fake account was still active, still sending Linda messages into the void. "So sorry, got held up at work. Rain check?" Linda would never respond to those messages. She was too smart not to realize she'd been played. But she'd never know who had played her, or why, or how someone had gotten close enough to her life to pull this off. Unless she figured it out. The thought hit me like ice water. Linda was vindictive and thorough when someone crossed her. She'd dissect this whole thing until she found answers. And when she did, I watched her car pull out of Romano's parking lot, driving slowly, carefully, like someone trying very hard not to fall apart. Then I saw Emma posting her live stream to Instagram with a caption, "When online dating goes wrong, face with tears of joy, poor Aunt Linda thought she found her prince charming." Hashtag catfish reality, hashtag online dating fails, hashtag family drama. 63 likes in 2 minutes. I was going to be sick. Chunk 8. I made it home before Jake, barely. My hands were shaking so badly I could hardly get the key in the lock. I rushed straight to my laptop and started deleting everything, David's dating profile, the fake email accounts, the photo editing apps. Every trace of what I'd done had to disappear. But Emma's video was spreading like wildfire. She'd tagged half the family, and they were all sharing it, commenting, adding their own speculation about Linda's mystery man who'd stood her up so spectacularly. Jake's car pulled into the driveway just as I slammed the laptop shut. "There you are," he said, coming through the front door with Thai takeout bags. "You sounded weird on the phone. Everything okay?" "Fine. Just had to run some errands." I forced a smile, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. Jake studied my face. "You look like you've been crying." "Allergies," I lied, grabbing plates from the cabinet to avoid his eyes. "Spring weather, you know." My phone buzzed. A text from Amy, Jake's sister. OMG, did you see Emma's video of mom getting stood up? I feel so bad, but also. Grimacing face. Jake's phone buzzed at the same time. Then again. And again. What the hell? He pulled it out, frowning at the notifications flooding his screen. Why is everyone? His face went pale as he watched Emma's video. I busied myself unpacking pad thai, trying to look surprised when Jake turned the phone toward me. Did you know about this? About mom's date tonight? What date? The lie came out smoothly, but my heart was hammering. She was meeting some guy from a dating app at Romano's. Look. He showed me the video of Linda sitting alone, then the footage of her walking to her car while Mike and Emma followed with their cameras. I watched my own handiwork play out on Jake's phone screen and felt genuinely nauseous. Oh my god, that's awful. They're following her? This is so fucked up, Jake muttered, scrolling through the comments. Emma's treating it like a joke. And Mike, Jesus, he's sharing it to his story too. His phone started ringing. Linda's contact photo filled the screen, a glamorous selfie from her recent beach vacation. Jake looked at me helplessly. What do I even say to her? Answer it, I whispered, though every instinct screamed at me to grab the phone and throw it out the window. Mom? Jake's voice was gentle. I just saw, are you okay? I couldn't hear Linda's response, but I could see Jake's expression growing more concerned by the second. What? No, Mom, that's not. Emma had no right to film that. A pause. I don't care if it's just family, that was private and humiliating. My stomach dropped. Jake was defending Linda. Of course he was, she was genuinely the victim here, and his cousins were acting like sociopaths. Mom, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. Some guys are just assholes. It doesn't reflect on you at all. Another pause. What do you mean, investigate? The blood drained from my face. Mom, you don't need to, okay, if it makes you feel better. But promise me you won't let Emma's stupid video get to you. I'm going to call her right now and tell her to take it down. He hung up and immediately started dialing Emma's number, his jaw tight with anger. Wait, I said quickly. Maybe don't get involved in family drama. It might make things worse. Jake looked at me like I'd suggested he kick a puppy. Sarah, they humiliated my mother on social media. She was already dealing with getting stood up, and then my cousins turned it into entertainment for their followers. I just meant. She's going to call the police, Jake said flatly. About the dating app guy. She thinks someone was deliberately messing with her, using fake photos or something. She wants to report it as fraud. The room started spinning. Police. Investigation. Digital forensics on dating app accounts. That seems like overkill, I managed. Does it? Someone created a fake profile to lure my mom to a public place and humiliate her. That's pretty sick. Jake's eyes were hard. I hope they catch whoever did this. I hope they throw the book at them. My husband, the man who was supposed to love and protect me, was talking about throwing the book at me. And he had no idea. Chunk 9. Emma's not answering, Jake said, pacing our living room with his phone pressed to his ear. Probably because she knows she screwed up. I sat frozen on our couch, watching him leave what had to be his fourth voicemail. The Thai food sat untouched on our coffee table, getting cold while my life fell apart in real time. Jake, maybe just leave it alone for tonight, I tried. Let everyone cool down. Cool down? He whirled around to face me. Sarah, my mother just lived through her worst nightmare. She got dressed up, went to a nice restaurant, and got publicly humiliated by some sick freak who thought catfishing a middle-aged woman would be funny. Then my own family filmed her walking to her car like she was some kind of reality TV show. The word freak hit like a physical blow. That's what I was to him, what I'd be to everyone once the truth came out. A sick freak who targeted lonely women for sport. She's talking about hiring a private investigator, Jake continued, running his hands through his hair. She wants to find out who did this and sue them for emotional distress. Honestly? I might help her pay for it. My mouth went completely dry. A private investigator? Yeah. She screenshot all her conversations with this David guy before she deleted the app. She's convinced someone local did this, someone who knew enough about her life to make it convincing. Jake's eyes met mine. She's probably right. Random scammers don't usually know about family restaurants and personal details. The conversations. Of course Linda had saved them. Every carefully crafted message I'd sent as David, full of specific details about her life, her interests, her family situation. Details only someone close to her would know. What kind of details? I asked, hating how guilty I sounded. Like how David knew she was divorced, knew about her book club, even knew about our money situation. Jake sat down heavily beside me. He told her she deserved better treatment from ungrateful family members. Who would know about our fight over the Cabo money except people who were at Amy's party? Amy's party. Where Linda had humiliated me in front of everyone. Where Emma had filmed my shame just like she'd filmed Linda's tonight. The irony was suffocating. I'd given Linda the same treatment she'd given me, and now Jake was ready to move heaven and earth to get her justice while he'd never even acknowledged that I'd been wronged in the first place. Maybe it was just a lucky guess, I said weakly. Scammers are good at reading people. Sarah, this person knew she goes to Romano's. They suggested that specific restaurant for their date. Jake's voice was getting harder. That's not a coincidence. That's someone who knows our family. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister, saw the video of Jake's mom. Yikes. You okay? Then another from my college roommate, girl, your MIL drama is all over my timeline. Emma's video is going viral. Viral. Emma's video was going viral. I refreshed Instagram with trembling fingers. The video now had over 300 likes and was being shared across multiple platforms. Someone had screen recorded it and posted it to TikTok with trending hashtags. The comments were brutal. This is so sad, but I can't stop watching. Someone needs to find this David guy and expose him. Plot twist, what if it was the daughter-in-law? Eyes. That last comment made my blood turn to ice. Other people were starting to reply to it. OT hot beverage. That would be unhinged. Check the first video Emma posted. The DIL looked pissed about something. Wait, what's the backstory here? They were connecting dots. Strangers on the internet were piecing together a timeline that led directly to me. I watched in horror as someone posted Emma's original video from Amy's party, the one where Linda demanded money from me. The comments were analyzing everything, my facial expression, Linda's dismissive tone, the family dynamics on display. This is like a real-life soap opera. If the daughter-in-law did this, she's a genius. Revenge served cold snowflake. Jake's phone rang again. This time it was his brother Mike. What's up? Jake answered, still pacing. Yeah, I saw the video. It was messed up, Mike. I could hear Mike's voice through the speaker, loud and animated, but couldn't make out words. What do you mean, anonymous tip? Jake's face went pale. Mike, slow down. Someone called you about what? My heart stopped beating. Someone called you and said they know who catfished Mom. Who was it? Jake was grabbing his keys from the coffee table. I'm coming over. Don't do anything until I get there. He hung up and looked at me. Someone contacted Mike through Instagram. Says they have information about who set up Mom's fake date. The room tilted sideways. Who? He doesn't know. But they're offering to share screenshots, IP addresses, the whole thing. Jake was already heading for the door. Stay here. I'll call you when I know more. The door slammed behind him, leaving me alone with the evidence of my crime playing on every social media platform and an anonymous tipster who apparently had enough information to destroy my life. I had maybe an hour before Jake came home knowing the truth. An hour to figure out how to survive what I'd done to myself. Chunk 10. The anonymous tipster was bluffing. They had to be. I spent 20 minutes frantically Googling how to trace fake dating profiles and digital forensics Instagram accounts until my search history looked like a cybercriminal's tutorial playlist. The results were terrifying. Apparently there were ways to track deleted accounts, recover message histories, even trace photos back to their original sources. But I'd been careful. I'd used public Wi-Fi, fake emails, stock photos that couldn't be reverse searched. Whoever was claiming they had evidence was probably just some internet troll trying to insert themselves into viral drama. My phone rang. Jake. Don't answer, I whispered to myself. But what if not answering made me look more suspicious? Hey, I said, forcing my voice to sound casual. Sarah, this is insane. Jake sounded breathless, like he'd been running. This person, they have everything. Screenshots of the fake dating profile, the photo editing software used to alter Mom's pictures, even the IP address from the coffee shop where the messages were sent. The coffee shop. The one across from Romano's where I'd sat watching Linda's humiliation unfold. I'd connected to their Wi-Fi to send that final message as David, the fake excuse about being late. How would someone know all that? I asked, though my voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. That's what we're trying to figure out. Mike thinks it might be someone who works in tech, maybe someone Mom pissed off recently. Jake paused. Sarah, they know everything. They even know what time the fake profile was created, what device was used. It's like they were watching it happen in real time. Or like they were the one doing it. The person wants to meet, Jake continued. Tonight. Says they'll only share the evidence in person, and only with immediate family. That sounds like a trap. Maybe. But Mom's already on her way to Mike's house. She wants answers, and honestly, so do I. Whoever did this to her is sick. His voice hardened. I want to look them in the eye when we turn them over to the police. Police. The word kept coming up, and each time it felt like a nail in my coffin. Jake, maybe I should come with you. No. The response was immediate and sharp. This person specifically said immediate family only. They seem spooked already, we don't want to scare them off. So I was supposed to sit at home while my husband, his mother, and his siblings met with someone who apparently had enough evidence to send me to jail. I'll call you as soon as we know anything, Jake said. Try to get some sleep. I know this whole thing has you shaken up. He had no idea how shaken up. After he hung up, I sat in our living room for exactly 3 minutes before the silence became unbearable. I couldn't just wait here for my life to implode. I needed to know what I was dealing with. Mike lived 15 minutes away. If I drove over and parked down the street, maybe I could see who this anonymous tipster actually was. Maybe I could figure out how much trouble I was really in. It was a terrible plan. But sitting at home imagining worst-case scenarios was making me physically ill. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, then stopped. What if Jake came home and found me gone? What if he started putting pieces together, his weird, distracted wife who'd been acting strange all week suddenly disappearing the same night someone offered evidence about his mother's catfish? But I couldn't stay here. I couldn't just wait for them to come home with handcuffs. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know you're scared. You should be. See you soon. Someone was playing games with me now. Someone knew exactly what I'd done, and they were enjoying watching me squirm. Whoever it was, they were about to destroy my marriage, my reputation, and possibly my freedom. And I was about to drive straight into their trap. The drive to Mike's house was the longest 15 minutes of my life. Every red light felt like an eternity, every turn brought me closer to whatever nightmare was waiting. I parked 3 houses down with a clear view of Mike's front door, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me anchored to reality. Jake's car was already there, along with Linda's white Mercedes and Amy's Honda. The whole immediate family gathered to hear evidence of my crimes. I'd been sitting there for maybe 10 minutes when another car pulled up, a black sedan I didn't recognize. The driver sat inside for a long moment before getting out, and when they did, my blood turned to ice. It was David Chen, Linda's divorce attorney. Not some random internet vigilante or tech-savvy troll. Linda's lawyer, the man who'd helped her navigate her brutal split from Jake's father, who'd probably seen every dirty trick in the book when it came to family warfare. Of course Linda had called her attorney. She wasn't just treating this as a prank or a dating app scam. She was treating it as a legal matter, a deliberate attack that warranted professional investigation. And David Chen was very, very good at his job. I watched him walk up to Mike's front door carrying a tablet and a manila folder thick with documents. Through the living room window, I could see the family gathered around the coffee table like they were conducting a war council. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Having fun watching from your car? You should come inside. This concerns you. They knew I was here. Whoever had sent that message could see me sitting in my car like some kind of stalker, spying on my own family as they built a case against me. I looked around frantically, checking parked cars and shadowed doorways, trying to figure out who was watching me. The street seemed empty except for the usual suburban evening quiet, but someone was close enough to know exactly where I was. Another text. David Chen is very thorough. He's already traced the photo edits to a specific app. Want to guess which one you used? This wasn't David Chen texting me. This was someone else, someone who'd been watching this whole thing unfold. Maybe someone who'd helped gather evidence, or someone who'd figured out what I'd done and decided to blackmail me instead of just exposing me. My phone rang. Jake again. Where are you? His voice was sharp, suspicious. At home. Why? Because Mike just looked out his window and saw a car that looks exactly like yours parked down the street. Shit. Shit. That's weird, I said, my voice cracking. Maybe someone has the same model? Sarah. Jake's tone was ice cold. Are you sitting outside Mike's house right now? I could lie again. Dig myself deeper into this hole I created. Or I could try to salvage whatever was left of my marriage by admitting to this one small deception. I was worried, I said finally. I wanted to make sure you were safe. Safe from what? We're meeting with someone who has evidence about Mom's catfish. Why would that be dangerous unless... He trailed off, and I could hear the exact moment he started connecting dots. Sarah, why are you really there? Through Mike's window, I could see Jake standing up from the coffee table, his phone pressed to his ear, his face a mask of growing realization. Come inside, he said quietly. Now. Jake, I can explain. Come. Inside. Now. The line went dead. In the window, I could see Linda pointing in my direction while David Chen took notes on his tablet. The anonymous tipster was still texting me, time's up. Let's see how good you are at explaining yourself. I had two choices, drive away and confirm everyone's suspicions, or walk into that house and face whatever evidence they had gathered against me. Either way, my life as I knew it was over. Chunk 12. I sat in my car for 30 more seconds, watching my husband's silhouette in Mike's window. He was gesturing animatedly while Linda shook her head and David Chen continued taking notes. They were discussing me, dissecting my behavior, my motives, probably running through a timeline of every suspicious thing I'd done this week. The anonymous texter wasn't giving up, walking in there won't save you. But staying in your car makes you look even more guilty. Tough choice. Whoever this was knew exactly how to twist the knife. They weren't just exposing me, they were enjoying it, drawing out my panic like some kind of sick game. I turned off my car and walked up Mike's driveway on unsteady legs. Through the front window, I could see Jake watching my approach with an expression I'd never seen before, like he was looking at a stranger. Mike opened the door before I could knock. Sarah. What a surprise. I was worried about Jake, I said, the lie automatic and pathetic even to my own ears. Worried about Jake meeting with an attorney in his brother's living room? Mike's voice was carefully neutral, but his eyes were hard. That's thoughtful of you. The living room fell silent when I walked in. Linda was perched on the edge of the couch, her earlier glamour completely stripped away. She looked older, fragile in a way I'd never seen before. Amy sat beside her, holding her hand in a gesture of solidarity that made my stomach clench with guilt. David Chen looked up from his tablet with professional interest. You must be Sarah. I'm David Chen, Mrs. Kowalski's attorney. I know who you are. I remained standing near the doorway, every instinct screaming at me to run. Perfect timing, he said, stylus poised over his screen. We were just discussing the psychological profile of someone who would orchestrate this kind of elaborate deception. Jake was staring at me like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. Sarah, Mr. Chen has some interesting theories about who might have done this. Oh? My voice came out as a whisper. The perpetrator had intimate knowledge of Mrs. Kowalski's schedule, her favorite restaurants, her family dynamics, David Chen said, consulting his notes. They also demonstrated familiarity with her social media habits and posting patterns. This suggests someone in her immediate social circle. That could be anyone, I said quickly. Family, friends, neighbors. True. But here's where it gets interesting. He swiped to a new screen. The fake profile was created on Tuesday evening at 11:47 p.m. The photo editing occurred between midnight and 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. Someone was up very late, very angry, doing very detailed work. Tuesday night. The night after Linda's money demand at the barbecue. The night I'd lain awake planning her downfall while Jake slept peacefully beside me. People keep weird hours, I managed. They do. But the location data tells a more specific story. David Chen's smile was razor sharp. The profile was created from this general neighborhood. The photos were edited using an app downloaded to a device that connected to the Romano's parking lot Wi-Fi at exactly 6:43 p.m. yesterday. My knees almost gave out. They had timestamps, locations, digital breadcrumbs I'd been too panicked to consider. I'd been so focused on covering my tracks that I'd left a trail any competent investigator could follow. The really interesting part, David Chen continued, is that someone was also connected to the coffee shop Wi-Fi across from Romano's last night. At the same time Mrs. Kowalski was being stood up. Almost like someone wanted to watch it happen in real time. Linda was staring at me now, her tear-filled eyes sharp with growing understanding. You were there, she said quietly. You were watching. Linda, You were there watching me sit alone like a fool while your family filmed it for social media. Her voice was getting stronger, angrier. You set this whole thing up, didn't you, Sarah? The room was absolutely silent except for the sound of my heart hammering against my ribs. Jake's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. Did you catfish my mother? The question hung in the air like poison. 5 pairs of eyes stared at me, waiting for an answer that would either damn me or save me. There was no middle ground left. Jake, I started, but my voice cracked. It's a simple question, Sarah. His tone was deadly quiet. Did you create a fake dating profile using my mother's photos to humiliate her? I looked around the room desperately. Linda's mascara had started to run, leaving dark tracks down her cheeks. Amy was gripping her mother's hand so tight her knuckles were white. Mike stood by the window with his arms crossed, looking like he wanted to physically throw me out of his house. And David Chin sat there with his tablet, recording everything, building a case that would follow me for the rest of my life. The evidence is pretty compelling, David said when I didn't answer. IP addresses, timestamps, location data. We even have the original photos you used, the ones you cropped and edited from Mrs. Kowalski's Instagram account. You downloaded them at 1:23 a.m. on Wednesday morning, Jake said, reading from David's notes. From our home Wi-Fi network. Our home. The place where I'd sat at our kitchen table, consumed with rage and humiliation, crafting this elaborate revenge while Jake slept upstairs. The place that might not be my home much longer. Sarah. Linda's voice was surprisingly gentle. Just tell the truth. We already know. But they didn't know everything. They didn't know why I'd done it, didn't know about the years of subtle cruelty, the constant undermining, the way she'd systematically tried to convince Jake that I wasn't good enough for their family. You want the truth? The words came out louder than I'd intended. Fine. Yes, I did it. Jake actually staggered backward like I'd hit him. Jesus Christ, Sarah. But you want to know why? I was standing now, 3 years of suppressed anger finally finding its voice. Because your mother has made my life hell since the day we got engaged. Because she demanded $5,000 from me in front of your entire family and called me ungrateful when I couldn't pay it. Because Emma filmed it and posted it online for entertainment, and none of you said a word. So you decided to destroy my mother's chance at happiness? Jake's face was flushed with anger. You think that's justified? I think she got exactly what she gave me. Public humiliation. Being treated like a joke. Having her dignity stripped away for other people's amusement. This is insane, Amy said, shaking her head. Sarah, this is actually insane behavior. Is it? Is it more insane than demanding money from your son's wife at a family party? Then calling her a gold digger behind her back for 3 years? Then treating her like she's not good enough to exist in your family? Linda was crying harder now, but there was something else in her expression. Something that looked almost like recognition. That doesn't excuse what you did, David Chin said sharply. This constitutes fraud, identity theft, intentional infliction of emotional distress. I know what it constitutes, I snapped. But I also know what 3 years of psychological warfare constitutes, and nobody seemed concerned about that. Jake was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You're my wife. You're supposed to be the bigger person. You're supposed to. I'm supposed to what? Take it forever? Smile while your mother bleeds me dry financially and emotionally? Let her turn me into the family punching bag while you do nothing to stop it. I never knew it was that bad, Jake said quietly. Because you never wanted to know. It was easier to let her treat me like garbage than deal with the conflict. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my anonymous tormentor. This is getting good. But wait until they find out about the other thing. The other thing. I went cold. There was no other thing. Unless. Mr. Chen, I said slowly, who gave you all this evidence? Who contacted Mike with the screenshots and IP addresses? David Chen's smile was predatory. That's attorney-client privilege. But I will say our source has been very thorough. Very motivated to see justice done. What does that mean? It means, Linda said, wiping her eyes, that someone else figured out what you did. Someone who cares enough about our family to make sure you face consequences. Someone in the family. Someone who'd been watching, gathering evidence, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy me. Someone who was enjoying this far too much to be acting purely out of justice. Chunk 14. Actually, David Chin said, setting down his tablet with deliberate precision, our source is here tonight. They've been documenting everything from the beginning. The room went dead silent. I looked around frantically, Jake, Linda, Mike, Amy, David Chin. Nobody else was here. Unless. I don't understand, Jake said slowly. David Chen's smile was almost gentle. Mrs. Kowalski, would you like to explain? My blood turned to ice as I watched Linda's tear-streaked face transform. The fragility disappeared, replaced by something sharp and calculating. She reached into her purse and pulled out a second phone, not the one I'd seen her using all week. You see, Sarah, Linda said, her voice steady now, I figured out what you were doing on Thursday morning. David wasn't real, but he was too perfect, too convenient. Too much like what I'd write if I were creating my own fantasy man. What are you talking about? Jake looked between us, confusion written across his face. Your wife is very smart, Linda continued, but she made one crucial mistake. David knew things about our family that I'd never posted online. Things I'd only said out loud at family gatherings. Things only someone at Amy's barbecue would know. My mouth opened and closed soundlessly. She'd known. She'd known for days. So I called David Chin Wednesday morning and asked him to help me gather evidence. Then I played along with your little game, Sarah. I got dressed up, went to Romano's, ordered dinner. I let Emma and Mike film me looking pathetic. Linda's eyes were ice cold. Because I wanted to see how far you'd go. I wanted documentation of just how cruel my son's wife really is. Jake was staring at his mother like she'd grown a second head. You knew? You knew Sarah was catfishing you and you went along with it? I wanted her to hang herself with her own rope. And she did. Linda held up her second phone. I have screenshots of every message David sent me after I figured it out. Messages that got progressively more cruel as Sarah watched me sitting alone at that restaurant. The messages. I'd sent 3 more texts as David while watching Linda through the coffee shop window. Fake apologies that were really designed to twist the knife deeper. Evidence of my sadism, timestamped and geolocated. You were never the victim, I whispered. Oh, I was definitely a victim. Just not of David. Linda's smile was razor sharp. I was the victim of a daughter-in-law who's apparently capable of elaborate psychological torture. Who sat in a coffee shop watching an older woman cry over her dinner and decided to send her more fake messages to maximize her pain. Mom, Jake's voice was strangled. Why didn't you just confront Sarah directly? Because nobody would have believed how calculating this was without proof. Your wife would have cried, apologized, claimed it was a momentary lapse in judgment. She'd have made herself the victim. Linda stood up, suddenly looking 10 feet tall. But this way, we have evidence of premeditation. We have timestamps showing she watched me suffer and chose to make it worse. We have everything we need. David Chen was typing rapidly on his tablet. The additional messages sent while Mrs. Kowalski was at the restaurant constitute aggravated harassment. Combined with the identity theft and fraud charges, we're looking at potential felony charges. Felony? The word came out as a squeak. You used someone else's photos to create a false identity for the purpose of causing emotional distress, he explained clinically. Then you escalated the harassment while witnessing the victim suffering in real time. Yes, felony. Jake was backing away from me like I was radioactive. Sarah, what did those messages say? Linda handed him her phone. I watched his face change as he read the texts I'd sent while watching his mother sit alone at Romano's. Messages designed to sound like half-hearted apologies while actually being small cruelties, implications that she'd misread signals, suggestions that she was too desperate, too old, not worth the effort. Jesus Christ, Jake breathed. You were torturing her. No, I was. You were sitting across the street watching my mother cry into her wine and sending her messages to make her feel worse about herself. His voice was getting louder. What kind of person does that? The kind of person who'd been pushed past her breaking point. The kind of person who'd been systematically destroyed by someone who was supposed to be family. But looking at their faces now, Jake's horror, Linda's cold satisfaction, the other's disgust, I realized that didn't matter anymore. I'd become the monster in their story. And Linda had orchestrated the whole thing to make sure everyone could see it clearly. My phone buzzed one final time. Congratulations. You played yourself. The number matched Linda's second phone. Chunk 15. You set me up, I said, my voice hollow with the realization. This whole thing was a trap. Linda's smile was triumphant. You set yourself up, dear. I just gave you enough rope. Jake was still scrolling through the messages on Linda's phone, his face growing paler with each screenshot. Sarah, some of these. God, you told her she was embarrassingly desperate while you watched her sit there alone. Because she humiliated me first. The words exploded out of me. She's been destroying me for 3 years, and the one time I fight back, suddenly I'm the villain? Fighting back? Amy stood up, her voice shaking with rage. You psychologically tortured our mother for a week. You made her believe someone cared about her, then ripped it away while she was surrounded by strangers. That's not fighting back, that's sadistic. Your mother called me a gold digger in front of 20 people and demanded $5,000 like I was her personal bank account. So you decided to commit multiple felonies in response? David Chen's voice cut through my protests like ice. Miss Sarah, I strongly suggest you contact an attorney. Tonight. Jake was looking at me like I was a stranger. The woman I married wouldn't do this. The woman I married wouldn't sit in a coffee shop sending cruel messages to someone who was already suffering. The woman you married has been suffering for 3 years while you did nothing to stop it. My voice cracked on the words. I begged you to see what she was doing to me. I begged you to stand up for me just once. This isn't standing up for yourself, Jake said quietly. This is. I don't even know what this is. Linda was gathering her things, her earlier tears completely gone. She looked refreshed, energized, like she'd just won the lottery. I'll be filing a police report in the morning. David has all the evidence organized for the prosecutor. Linda, please. Mrs. Kowalski, she corrected coldly. You lost the right to my first name when you stole my identity for your sick little revenge fantasy. The room was spinning. 3 hours ago, I thought I was the clever one, the mastermind who'd finally given Linda a taste of her own medicine. Now I was looking at criminal charges, the end of my marriage, and complete social destruction. Jake, I whispered, reaching for his arm. He stepped away from my touch. Don't. Just don't. I need you to leave my house, Mike said, his voice deadly quiet. Before I call the police myself. I looked around the room one last time. Linda was practically glowing with vindication. Amy wouldn't even look at me. David Chen was already drafting legal documents on his tablet. And Jake, my husband, my partner, the person who was supposed to love me unconditionally, was staring at me like I was something disgusting he'd found on his shoe. For what it's worth, I said to Linda, you got exactly what you wanted. You destroyed my marriage, my reputation, probably my freedom. Congratulations. Linda's smile was serene. No, dear. You destroyed all of that yourself. I just made sure everyone got to see who you really are underneath all that fake sweetness. She was right, and that was the most devastating part. I'd revealed myself to be exactly as petty, vindictive, and cruel as I'd always accused her of being. Worse, because I'd convinced myself I was the victim while orchestrating someone else's systematic humiliation. I walked out of Mike's house into the cool night air, my phone already buzzing with notifications as Emma's video continued spreading across social media. By morning, everyone would know what I'd done. By next week, I'd probably be facing a judge. Linda had won. Not just this battle, but the entire war. She turned me into everything I'd hated about her, then made sure I'd destroy myself publicly in the process. The most twisted part? She'd never even had to lift a finger. She just waited patiently while I did all the work myself.